Welcome to Show and Tell Meg. I'm Megan and I like to make things. And today I wanted to start a series on why I love blank. And I figured that what better way to start than one of my favorite knitted toy pattern designers, who is Hrachovec of Mochimochi Land. I have been a huge fan of her designs ever since I first learned how to knit. Her first book I don't own. It came out, I believe, in 2011, and it's called Teeny Tiny Mochimochi, and I got it from the library, and I looked through it, and you can make itty bitty toys, you can see that, out of fingering weight yarn on size 1 needles, and I loved the idea, but when I first learned to knit, I had absolutely no idea how to wield such tiny needles. So I didn't jump in with that first, but I did get this book from the, I think I ordered it online or bought it at Barnes & Noble. It was very popular at the time. Knitting Mochimochi, 20 super cute strange designs for knitted amigurumi. And it was absolutely what I wanted to be doing. As you can see, my copy is really dirty. It got carried around quite a bit. But when I first learned to knit, I wanted to make these adorable toys. I mean, this book is so full. I don't know if you can really see all those around the front of the cover. But there were certain ones that I was just dying to make. And so I bought this book. And the first one was The Pig with Wigs. It's just so ridiculous. I love the illustration, or not illustration, but the photo with that IKEA mirror that we all owned, and how they all have different wigs and they're colorful. And so I just had to make it. So I bought this book so that I could make my own pig with wigs. This is the stylish Nadine, so I called her when I used to name all of my animals. I mean, I still do, not used to. But I made the pig, and she has her classic bob. She also has an afro, a mohawk, and what would you want to call, I mean, everyone would call it Marie Antoinette hair, right? Really tall wig from the late 1700s, mid to late. I made all of these out of Cascade 220 because that's what the pattern recommended, I believe. If I remember that right, yes. And these were all colors that I had. I think the only one I had to buy was the pig color. So that's why they are the colors that they are. But this was a challenge when I was a new knitter. It's not difficult. Nothing about it is difficult, but it was, I believe, my first foray into double pointed needles. So let me grab those and I'll show you what that is. So I have developed a love of double pointed needles over the years. I know they get kind of a bad rap and they look like some kind of strange torture device a little bit, especially if you're a new knitter and you don't know what you're doing. But I was determined. I wanted this pig. And so I purchased on Amazon a full set of very cheap bamboo double pointed needles. These were from Stitchberry, and I still have almost all of them. I did break one of the size ones because these are essentially like toothpicks, but it took a while. Anyway, so I learned how to use double pointed needles for the sake of making these animals. Her patterns are knitted in the round on double pointed needles for the most part, but you could use a magic loop if you wanted to on a circular needle. Kind of up to you. If you were ambitious and knew how to translate it, you could make a seam in the back, knit them flat. Personally, I like to eliminate the steps of having to sew anything together. So I'm a big fan of the double pointed needles. Over the years, I had the bamboo ones. I used them a lot, and I've had to replace a couple of different sizes. I have branched out, and now I have some aluminum from Knitter's Pride, and these work great. They do make my hands hurt a little more. I will warn you, if you are just starting out, I definitely recommend the bamboo because you're knitting so tightly to get this kind of gauge. You don't want the stuffing to come out. You want the holes. Like this was when I was not a very experienced knitter, and so you can see those holes right there. And you know, I can see stuffing. That's not what you aim for when you're making a stuffed animal. You want a really tight gauge. And so most all of her patterns, or at least the ones that use worsted weight, are recommended to use a worsted weight yarn and a size 5 needle. That is what I have always stuck with, and it's worked really, really well. These are all the patterns that I still have in my possession of things that she's designed. So the first was the pig with wigs, and then I had to make the confused moose. Here is my version. I modeled all the colors exactly off of what Anna had in the book. I used Caron Simply Soft in chocolate and some kind of tan color. I can't remember the name of this one. And then there's like strawberry, pistachio, stuff like that. But all of these happen to be the same kind of yarn because I had it easily at my disposal when I was a new knitter, and he worked out awesome. He's still to this day one of my favorites, and he sits on a shelf in my sewing room as a decoration. So after these two patterns and seeing how they're really cute and complicated looking, but they're really not very complicated, I became a little obsessed and I started to buy all the books. So her next book was Super Scary Mochimochi, and I think I've actually only made one thing out here, which is what she calls the hurly-burly. I named it Irma because I knitted it during Hurricane Irma when all the power was out and we had nothing to do. So I knitted this, and the coolest part, all right, you ready? So, but it's designed to flip. It's designed to flip, and it is two different of the same monster in different colors. It's just so ridiculous, and I loved it so much. And what better way to commemorate being stuck inside during a power outage for a hurricane than with an adorable knitted creature? So Super Scary, obviously they're all kind of spooky, scary themed. There's the monster, there's a werewolf that you can actually change into a werewolf yourself, which is so cool. There's witches, there's bats, there's killer bees. I love this one that it's a mama bear cave with babies inside. Like I will probably eventually make this. I just haven't made it yet. But how inventive, you know what I mean? And that is one of the overarching themes of her patterns and why I like them so much. They're just so inventive. They're cute and they're unique. It's an interesting idea behind it. Like who decides a pig needs wigs? I didn't know I needed a pig with wigs until I saw this book, and then I absolutely needed it. Same with this moose. Like they're all very kawaii style, you know, very cute Japanese kind of inspiration, and I'm absolutely all about it. Her next book is Huge and Huggable Mochimochi, and that's what these two guys are from. I saw this book and I just knew I needed to branch out into heavier yarn. And that's brings me to another cool thing about her patterns. So all of these, you know, her standard ones are for worsted weight. Her little ones are for fingering weight. But that's the only change that's really made. All of these designs could be made bigger or smaller depending on the size of yarn and needles that you use. And once you've made a few, and like how I know worsted weight is going to be on a size 5 needle, fingering weight is going to be on a size 1 needle because I'm going to get a nice tight gauge. Because I've made enough of her patterns, I know this trend in what works. So Huge and Huggable is using all bulky and super bulky yarns with a bigger needle. I actually can't remember what I made this guy at, but it was like a size 10.5 needle or something like that. I did use a circular needle for him because he's huge. And the reason that I chose the roly-poly was actually because I happened to already have the right colors of yarn in the right quantities in my stash, because I love all of these. Like this octopus, it's enormous. I would love to make it, but at the time I didn't have that much bulky weight yarn. I really want to make the capybara. I also really like this dinosaur. I don't know. They're just so cute. Here's a huge tube of toothpaste. I mean, who doesn't need a toothpaste and a toothbrush pillow in their life? I know I do. So eventually maybe we'll get there, but if I wanted to make some of these designs, but I didn't happen to have the bulky weight yarn on hand and I didn't want to spring for it, I could have easily made him in worsted weight. I could have made him in fingering weight, though that would be a lot of stitches on a teeny thing. But that's another reason that I love these patterns. Then the final book of hers that I own, I think this is her final pattern book, is Adventures in Mochimochi Land. And it's actually a story that all the pictures are done with knitting. And so there's an actual story behind it, which is cool. But then it has the patterns to make all of these creatures as well. So you can make the adventurer, main character, there's a chef, there's a gummy bear, some donuts, a muffin, like everything that she used to set this up. So even like the buildings in the background, you can make these and you have a story. So super cute. And the adventurer goes through a lot of different types of backgrounds. So I know there's like sea life, there's air travel, there's just all kinds of things. So very fun. I haven't made any out of that book yet, but I know it's just a matter of time. Anna also self-publishes lots of patterns, including pattern collections. A lot of the pattern collections would be like little people. She has several sets that are like 4 or 6 little people that include, I made some ballerinas years ago. I've made a lumberjack. She's got an astronaut. She has a nun. She has a clown. And there's just different sets of those. Then there's like a woodland creatures one. There's an Arctic creatures one. So I have a penchant for buying these patterns just because, I have to collect them all. Look, but she came out with a set a few years ago at Halloween that was spooky cats. And all the cats have something that they can go inside of. So this one was in the pumpkin. So I knitted the pumpkin and it can go in there. I believe it even has a lid to the pumpkin. But I was just making it for my little girls at the time. The pattern is written to be tiny, a little bigger than this, but still written for fingering weight on size 1 needles. I made this on worsted weight with size 5 needles. Worked exactly the same. So I just didn't want to give my girls were like 2 years old and they loved kitties, but I didn't want to give them something super tiny that they would lose. So this is Pumpkin Kitty is what they call him. And they loved it. But even this set had like a cat that goes inside of a witch hat and one that goes inside of a coffin, things like that. So just really cute ideas that are fun to make, fun to have around your house, fun for kids to play with. I've made a lot of her individually published patterns, including quite a few that I don't even have here. She does have some free patterns for small things you can get that on Ravelry or on her website, which is mochimochiland.com. But she has a superhero tiny guy. I started a project where I was going to make keychains that were superheroes for this whole group that I was in and give them to everybody. And I made 2. I never gave them eyes, and then I stopped making them. So I still have these 2 guys, and they've actually come in handy, and I'll tell you why shortly. But this is a free pattern on her website. Or actually, I think it's on Knitty, if I remember correctly. And so you can use this. This is one of the most versatile patterns of hers that I've used. I have turned this little superhero guy into Superwoman, Spider-Man, Superman, and these guys. And I made little tiny Mike and 11 from Stranger Things. If they will focus on them. All with that same free pattern. I believe it's called Knit Boy and Pearl Girl. So very simple, but very useful, this pattern, because you can change the coloring that you use. You can give them hair. You can add other accessories and embroider things and completely change what they look like. a lot of these others actually stemmed from a pretty cool opportunity that Anna does every year. She hosts a photo contest, and then just not too long ago, several years ago though, she introduced adding a video element to her contest, and she does it once a year. And you, the only requirement is that you make things with her patterns and then use them to take photos, and then everyone votes on who wins. And I had submitted several times for the photos. I never won on that one, but I did do a spoof of the first season of Stranger Things where I used all my knitted creations and did a very bad job with stop motion animation, which I'd never done before. And I had to try to learn how to do it. And this was like 2017 or something, but I won. Thankfully, I'm sure it was lots of my friends, but I got voted on enough and I won. And as part of my prize, I won a certain amount of money in merchandise in her store. And so I chose patterns. I got, these are the flapjack frogs. She has a series of several different types of animals that are designed to be stacked. Like she has stackable cats, pile up pups, flapjack frogs. The frogs have a little lily pad that I also knitted that they sit on. And then there's actually a tiny little fly, and he's adorable, but he fell behind my bookcase. So I couldn't find him, but I did make him too. And I've always intended to make the cats and the dogs because, especially like I had thought I would make them when my kids were littler, because what toddler doesn't love cats that you can stack? They're like little cube cats. So adorable. But I just haven't gotten around to making them yet. And then this is the Barnivore pattern. Her version does have a face, like it has eyes and teeth, like the barn is eating the animals, which is awesome. But I was making it again for my toddlers. And so you've got a little recess for the little animals to go in. And there's a choice of several tiny animals you can make to go inside the barn. And there's actually hay up in there. So we've got a tiny chicken, which this is also available in her first book, The Teeny Tiny Mochimochi. And I made a pig, a cow, and I was making it for toddlers, so it had to be a black and white. And then I made a horse, but she also includes the instructions to make this a donkey, which is so cute too. And originally I have twins, so I had planned on making 2 of each of these, but Christmas came quickly, and so we only got 1, but I still think it's really, really cute. And it has windows all the way around. Squishy, just really fun. Just a fun little play set for my kids to play with, and they really enjoyed it when they were little. I will confess I was afraid they were going to lose the tiny animals, and so I would always pick it up after they were done playing and put it away. But still, very cute. I'm so glad I made it, and it was a super fun project at the time. So other than just patterns, Anna also sells kits for her patterns online for the little creatures that she makes. And around the time that I won the contest, the newest patterns that came out was this series of dogs that look like food, which is really cute. And so I got some of her kits with my winnings, and that was just really cool. She also sent me a note and said, congratulations. I still have the note inside one of my books just because it was fun to have. But all of her kits include the stuffing that you need, as well as wool yarn in the colors that you need. So like this is all to make the doggy slider, who's a burger. I mean, who doesn't need that in their life? I do feel bad. I still haven't made them up. I keep intending to, but I'm a bit of a hoarder with things like this. So eventually I will make these. I've got the doggy slider, the hot doggy, but I did make the ice cream doggy. And this folded up paper has the pattern. Here is my ice cream doggy. And it's just a poodle with a cherry on its head. I wanted to still be able to potentially use it in animations or something. Not that I've done that, but therefore I made the cone not sewn on. I can pin it on there, but that way I can wrap him up if I want to or not. So he's kind of a taco, but very, very cute and very inventive. Like who thinks of an ice cream doggy? But I needed him. So one of the things that I tend to use her patterns for a lot is unique gifts. I have used a lot of her individually published patterns as those, and over the years, one year for Christmas I made 8 of her tiny snowmen, and I gave them as ornaments to friends and family members. I made my sister had a baby, her first baby last year, and at her baby shower, I gave her a knitted toilet. It's the Fleshy pattern by Hrachovec, and it has eyes, and it opens its lid open, so it's like a mouth. And I mean, it was the most memorable gift of the baby shower by far, because I mean, how are you going to forget that someone gave a kid a knitted toilet? But my sister appreciated the joke. It's kind of an inside joke with us, of my family. So her son has a knitted toilet. And then my 4-year-old nephew, I made him one that it's a snake, and the snake eats a mouse. Like the snake, it's like a tube sock. And so you have this little mouse and you shove it down the snake's mouth. And because it's ribbed like a sock, you get the bulge in the snake according to where the mouse is in his body. And for a 4-year-old boy, I mean, you can't beat that. He thought it was the greatest thing. My kids thought it was the greatest thing. They wanted me to make one for them. So her patterns are just so unique and cute and fun, my most recent one is I just finished these for my kids for Valentine's Day. It's called Coo and Koi, which actually I need to hold them correctly. When you put them together, they make a heart. But they're 2 individual birds, and it actually, one of them has this little strap so you can make them hold wings. And so I have twins. And so not only was it a cute Valentine that I could make them, but it's also 2 matching birds, and they make a heart and they'll hold hands. I mean, it's just so cute. Why not? So that is my feelings about Mochimochi Land patterns. If you have any inclination of making toys, I absolutely recommend that you look into her patterns. They're very well written. She has an extremely big catalog that has all kinds of different things. And if you're imaginative, you can even use the different parts and pieces off of one thing and put it on another to make a different creature. It's just a great opportunity, I think. I was not paid for any of this. She doesn't even know who I am, other than that I won the contest one year. I just really enjoy her patterns, and they're unique and fun. And I love to encourage other people to make unique and fun things that they can enjoy. And so if you are at all intrigued by any of her stuff, check your local library. Check out her website. Her individual patterns are great. They will show you everything that you need to be able to make all of these. And I mean, who doesn't need these things in their life? A giant pencil. So that's everything that I have for today. I hope to continue to do this with other designers that I really like and books that I like, to just try to let people maybe hear about something that they haven't heard of before. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will absolutely answer them in the comments. Again, I was not paid for any of my opinions here. Everything that I have shown you is 100% my own opinion, and it's just good stuff. So if you enjoyed this, I would appreciate it if you could give me a like and subscribe if you're curious about other designers that I have used over the years. I have a couple of plans of different ones that they're just my favorites. And whether they're as popular now as they were like 8 years ago when I first started doing these kinds of things, or well, maybe 10 years, I don't know. I've been knitting for 12 years. So I've tried a lot of different things. So if you're at all interested in that, stick around and we'll see what we can talk about next time. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.